Welcome to the Total Party Kitchen Adventures. This is the show where we go through the Dungeons and Dragons cookbook called Heroes Feast and make every recipe inside. Today we are actually going to be making smoked sausage and kraut with Dwarven Mustard. This is in the Dwarven section, obviously, of the cookbook. And there's a few things that I just wanted to touch on before we get into it. In this recipe, it calls for a teaspoon of juniper berries, which is optional. We weren't able to find them locally here. I looked online, and some sources said that you could find them at like a Whole Foods. Unfortunately, we don't have one of those near us. So we did opt to leave those out since they were optional. And the other thing is this recipe calls for 6 smoked sausage, such as kielbasa or bratwurst. Um, we opted to go with a spicy Italian sausage. And the reason why we did that is locally we have our good friends, the Artisan Pig, and they're located right here in Plymouth where we are based, and they make all their own sausage. So we figured why go to the store and get a bratwurst when we can get like really high quality, locally made sausage and give them a shout out because we love Andrew and everyone there at the Artisan Pig. So if you happen to be in the Plymouth area, swing by the Artisan Pig, check out their sausage. They also do like wood fired oven pizza, breads. It's a great place. Check it out. And so, with all that being said, I think we're going to jump into the recipe at this point. And if I forgot anything, I'll recap later. So, yep. So this is the smoked sausage and kraut and the dwarven mustard, and we're gonna start watching that now. And so this recipe, we're gonna start by chopping an onion. We actually used two because they were really small. We didn't have very good options here at our local Mega Mart, so we just went with two small ones. But if you have a large yellow onion, then you can just go with one. Um, there was no specific uh, cup amount listed in the recipe. It just said one yellow onion finely chopped. So we are here just chopping them as finely as we can. We didn't really dice them super small, but we try to keep them pretty small. And I went back there with a large knife and kind of chopped up the pile as best we could. And then the other prep work that we had to do was a large apple, which we peeled and cored, and then we cut the and then we cut that apple into um, half-inch pieces, so kind of cubed it as much as you can cube an apple. So we just kind of sliced into long pieces this way for each slice, and then turn them again and chop them into a much smaller piece. All right. And then we started with the mustard. We took um, a half cup of stone ground mustard, and this was actually our mistake. We thought it was stone ground mustard. It was actually whole mustard. So it's a little bit different. It's not quite what we're supposed to be using, but for our purposes, it worked okay. And luckily, we had just barely enough for the recipe. And then we took a quarter cup of sour cream. Making sure we get every little bit out. And then we're just going to stir that to combine. And this is going to be the Dwarven Mustard. We're just going to kind of, once we're done with this, put it aside because we won't need it again until we're plating. But we just give it a quick stir to combine those ingredients. And then we're just going to set that aside. And now we're going to get started on the sauerkraut, and we are going to use 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. We actually used olive oil. And we're going to heat that up in a large pot over medium heat. And then we are going to add our onions to that. And we're going to just kind of keep an eye on those and stir them occasionally. We want them to soften and just start to caramelize. We don't want them brown, but so we're going to just kind of cook them down. This took about 10 to 15 minutes to kind of like really get them broken down and just, like I said, just starting to brown. And they're just about there at this point. So we're going to start to add the other ingredients for the sauerkraut portion of this. So to this, we're going to add the apples that we had cut before. And then we're going to add some sugar. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar. This is also where you would add the juniper berries if you were opting to use them. 1.5 cups of water. And then to this, we add 4 cups of sauerkraut, drained, rinsed, and squeezed dry. To be honest, we didn't rinse it. We just kind of squeezed the excess liquid out of it. And I don't know, it just seemed weird to rinse sauerkraut. So we just kind of skipped over that section, but we squeezed all the excess liquid out of it. And then we're gonna just give it a really thorough stir to make sure all the ingredients are. Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna add some salt and pepper to that. A couple cranks of salt and a couple cranks of pepper just for flavor. Almost forgot that. I can't forget the salt and pepper. And then we are going to give that, like I said, a good stir to thoroughly combine everything. You have the apples and the onions and the sauerkraut, water and sugar, salt and pepper. So you want to make sure it's evenly combined. And juniper berries if you use those. And then we're going to cover it. We're going to leave that covered over medium heat for 25 to 35 minutes. And then we're going to get to the sausages. These are the sausages, again, provided by the Artisan Pig. And we're going to make sure we punch some holes in them to let the juices out and let the beer in. Nothing crazy, just a few here and there. And then we are going to take 2 cups of dark beer and put it into a deep saucepan, which the light was so bright it's kind of blowing out the camera, so that's a little better now. There we go. And we're going to bring that to a simmer, just over medium heat again. And then we're going to drop in the sausages. This looks like it was a small pan. It wasn't. These things were monstrous. The Artisan Pig really took care of us. And these were insanely huge sausages. And we actually had a little bit of trouble kind of fitting them in there. I probably would have liked a little more room. So the recipe calls for 6. We could have probably gotten away with like 4 or 5. But, you know, we made sure that all 6 fit in there eventually. And then you're going to keep that simmering for 5 to 10 minutes. We did flip them because they were so huge. We wanted them to cook evenly. It's not required in the recipe because I feel like if you use store-bought sausage, it would be covered. You could have used more beer, I suppose. But we only had a little more than what the recipe required for it, and we drank it. So get those back in there. And so now it's time to plate. We put the sauerkraut mixture on there. And then we're going to lay the sausage across the sauerkraut. Just like that. You can spoon some of the beer over if you like. And then just a little bit of the Dwarven Mustard on the side there. And that's really it. It was another very simple recipe from the Heroes Feast cookbook. It was delicious. I'm not a huge fan of sauerkraut, so I wasn't really keen on this one. I figured I'd have to kind of struggle through it, but cooking it with the apple and that little bit of sugar really kind of mild the flavor of the sauerkraut. I really actually enjoyed it. I think if I was to do sauerkraut for any dish, I would probably prepare it the same way. So it's a nice little technique to learn. I might even do a little more like an apple and a half because I really like the flavor that provided. Um, Again, it calls for smoked sausage like a kielbasa or a bratwurst. We were using the Italian sausage because we wanted to keep it local because we could, and they make such good product there that I mean, there was no way to ruin that just by boiling it in beer. And a super simple recipe. You are working with um, things on top of the stove, so maybe like older kids. I wouldn't try with younger kids. I'm not sure how kids like sauerkraut, so that would be something else that you'd have to consider. But overall, I thought it was a great recipe. And there was a ton of food. It really made enough for a whole party to have um, sitting around the Dungeons and Dragons table. Again, it really felt like a dwarven recipe. So it was another recipe that they really hit out of the park, and it was perfectly suited to a Dungeons and Dragons experience, and simple to make. Really enjoyed it, and I would definitely make this again for certain. And I can't wait to see what the dice decide we're going to make next. And if you guys tried this recipe, please, let us know, comment, tell us what you thought about it, and post pictures. It'd be great to see what you guys come up with, and make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with other Dungeons and Dragons fans and other people who enjoy cooking. And yeah, we'll see you guys again next time. Thanks.